Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Strand. I'm really excited for today's episode because I love making cakes. And today on Sweet Talk, we're making a show-stopping 3-layer tall vanilla sponge cake layered with fresh strawberries and delicious fresh strawberry meringue buttercream. Strawberries are one of my favorite signs of spring, and with 3 pounds of them in this cake, I can't think of a better way to celebrate the season. To start, I've preheated my oven to 325 degrees, and I've also prepared my pan. So here I have an 8-inch springform pan, and I've sprayed it with some cooking spray, lined it with parchment paper, and then sprayed it again to make sure that nothing sticks. We really want this cake to come out nicely. If you don't have a springform pan, you can always use an 8-inch pan and just do the same thing where you use a 5-inch tall strip of parchment paper to line the pan. The reason we line it this tall is because this is a really tall cake and we only use one pan to make all 3 layers. So I'll just set this aside while we get going. So here I have 2 1/4 cups of cake flour, and to this I'll add 3/4 cup of sugar. This is just regular granulated sugar. And then I'll add 2 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. And finally, 3/4 teaspoon of salt. This is coarse salt. Give this a nice whisk. I'm using cake flour here, so that's gonna result in an extra tender, fluffy, light sponge cake, which is exactly what we want for this. All right, so that's mixed. So next I'll separate 7 eggs. We'll save the 7 whites for our meringue, but right now we just need the yolks. If you're nervous about getting egg yolk into your whites, you can always crack it into another bowl. So now to this, I'll add 1 stick of melted butter, slightly cooled so that it's not going to curdle your egg yolks, and 2/3 of a cup of whole milk. Crack those yolks in there. Give it a whisk just until everything's combined. And now I will add our dry ingredients into the wet mixture. This makes a pretty thick base batter that we're going to later lighten with whipped egg whites and a meringue. Just whisk it until everything's combined. There might be some little lumps remaining, that's okay. All right, that's looking good. Move some of this stuff out of the way. And next we'll move into making our meringue. I have my 7 egg whites that I just separated. I'll add these to the bowl. We're using a whisk attachment for this. And then we'll just start this on a medium-low speed to break up the egg whites, get it to soft peaks, which takes about 2 minutes. When it's foamy, I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This helps stabilize the egg whites. It makes it harder for the egg whites to deflate later. And 2 teaspoons of vanilla, it gives it a really nice vanilla flavor. Now we'll crank this up, get it to soft peaks before we add the sugar. So it's been 2 minutes. And my egg whites are looking nice and foamy. You can see they're starting to hold a little bit of a peak. Now I'm ready to add the sugar, which is gonna add structure and help stabilize our meringue again. You wanna increase the speed and just add the sugar a little bit at a time. If you do it too quickly, the sugar won't dissolve properly and then it's gonna deflate the meringue. Sprinkle a little bit. This is 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. I like to kind of sprinkle it in from a bowl like this. It makes it really easy to take your time. Now I'm just going to increase the speed to medium-high and let this run for 7 minutes until it forms nice, glossy, stiff peaks. This looks beautiful. It's light and fluffy. I love meringue. I think it's so fun. So I'm ready to fold this into my batter. So what we do first, I'm going to put in 1/3 of this mixture and we'll whisk it in. Put this over here. I know it may sound counterintuitive, but we're basically lightening this batter to prepare it to fold in the rest of the meringue. All right, there we go. And I'm going to fold the rest of this in 2 additions. So the way we fold is I like to cut through the middle and swoop around. So now I'm going to transfer this into my prepared pan. Now I'm going to bake this in my 325-degree oven for 45 minutes until it's risen and just starting to brown. After that, we're going to reduce the heat to 300 degrees and keep baking until it springs back when you touch the top of the cake, and the cake should be nice and golden brown. While my cake is in the oven, I'm making my strawberry-meringue buttercream. First, I'll start with a pound of strawberries that we will puree with half a cup of sugar. So it's been 10 minutes. This strawberry mixture smells amazing. So I'm going to strain it through a fine mesh sieve. And once this is strained, I'm going to put it in the fridge to cool for an hour. So my strawberry mixture has cooled for an hour and we're ready to finish our buttercream. So we'll start with 7 egg whites and we'll put them over a pot of simmering water. To that I'm adding 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of coarse salt. Now we'll whisk this until the sugar has dissolved and the egg whites are warm to the touch. This is also cooking the eggs so that you don't have to worry about raw egg white in your buttercream. All right, I think we're about ready. Yep, it's getting pretty warm and I don't feel any sugar between my fingers. So I think this is ready to go. So I'll place this and we're gonna whip this up. Set this on high for about 10 minutes until stiff glossy peaks form. All right, so this has been going for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, we have a nice, beautiful meringue here. So I'm gonna reduce the speed down to medium-low, and now we add in our butter. So this is a pound or 4 sticks of unsalted butter at room temperature. So we're just gonna slowly add this in, a couple squares at a time. I have cut it into small pieces so that it makes it really easy to stir right in. Last couple pieces here. I'll scrape down the sides of the bowl. This is looking good, so I'm just gonna give it a couple more seconds to combine. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla and then add in our strawberry puree. I'm going to do this really slowly to make sure that it emulsifies into the buttercream and it doesn't make it break. All right. This looks great. My buttercream is nice and light, fluffy. I'm gonna set this aside so that I can assemble my cake. Since I'm frosting it today, I wanna leave it at room temp. If I wasn't doing that, I would put it in the fridge for up to 3 days or in the freezer for a month. You'll just want to make sure that you bring it up to room temp before you frost your cake. So I have my cooled cake. A trick I learned is you can kind of score around the edge of your cake with a serrated knife. So then you can start cutting through while you're turning, and the scored mark you left helps you guide the knife through the cake, just like that. So now I'll put this down and we'll do the same thing here. We'll divide this one in half. With the bottom layer. And first, I'm going to take 3/4 cup of my buttercream. It helps to get really even layers if you use a measuring cup. I'm just going to spread this out. Nice, even, thin layer. All right, that looks pretty good. And now here I have a pound of strawberries that I've sliced. So I'm going to put half of these strawberries onto this first layer. Kind of want to overlap them a little bit. Pat down lightly on this to make sure that they stick into the buttercream. And I'm actually going to spread some more buttercream on the underside of the middle layer. This is going to help everything stick together. That looks good. And now we'll flip this upside down onto the strawberries. Make sure it's centered, and now we do it all over again. I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to frost this side. Looks good. Gotta go for it. Just like that. Looks kind of pretty like that, I think. I mean, you could leave it as a naked cake if you wanted to, but we have all of this delicious buttercream left, so we'll use this to frost the outside of the cake. This is looking pretty good for our base layer. Now I'm gonna finish with the rest of the buttercream. Smooth it on top and do the same thing all over again. Now with my mini offset, I'm going to take it and press it into the cake and just lift straight up. You're just pressing in lightly. You don't wanna go in so far that you're revealing too much of the cake. So that looks great. I think I'm ready to put my strawberries on top. So I have a pound of strawberries here. I'm gonna leave the tops on, but we're just gonna pile these right on top of the cake. I love that it just looks like it's overflowing with strawberries. I think this is looking great. So the final touch is a little dusting of confectioner's sugar on top. I think this cake is so stunning and impressive. It's packed with strawberry flavor. The cake is so light and tender. I think it's gonna be a beautiful centerpiece at your next spring brunch, Mother's Day, or celebration. Enjoy.